All right, welcome to the July edition of the Apalachee Inshore Fishing Report. I'm Jake Carson. This is Evan Snow. This month is brought to you by our title sponsor, which is
It's Keaton Beach Trading Post and Outfitters.
Yeah.
It's a new store coming to Keaton Beach. George and Stephanie Weldon are the same people who own Keaton Beach Vacation Rentals are opening a store. They're going to do some golf cart rentals. They're going to do bike rentals, kayaks. Also, they're going to have a little shop, the Trading Post. It's going to have knickknacks, shirts, hats, just all kinds of novelty stuff. We'll talk a little more about it in a little
for
while.
sure.
So stay tuned, and we'll tell you where that's at and what they got going on.
getting a new trading post in Keaton Beach. That should be pretty. That's pretty cool. Pretty exciting.
Yep.
Have some opportunities there for people coming in town to kind of get on to some cool things. So, we also want to appreciate Kenny Mullins from coming on the show from Real Epic Charters. Thank you for joining us this month, Kenny.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Man, I tell you what, Evan and Kenny, we have had a ton of rain lately. I feel like I haven't seen the sun but about one day in the last, month and a half. So that's kind of had an effect on the water out there. What are you guys seeing as far as water conditions are going right now?
It's dark. I mean, it's getting darker by the day. We haven't had a ton of rain. We've had a little rain the last day or so, but I saw a big difference in watercolor between yesterday and today on the water. And it takes it takes a couple days for that water to get out of the woods and down through the creeks and all the way out there onto the flats. But it's just definitely showing up on the flats now.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's definitely dark out there. Waters that have been normally clear throughout the years are really stained and tannic. So we got a lot of fresh water. Steenhatchee River's rolling. All local rivers are just rolling.
Rivers, creeks.
Everything.
Yeah, and like you said, we hadn't had a ton of rain, but we got a ton of rain last week, and it takes a few days to a week for those tannins to really start staining the flats for it to show up on the flats. It's delayed.
Yeah, and I don't think that's just something that's localized to our area. I think that's pretty well, entire North Florida, Central Florida has had a ton of rain too. So, yeah. So I mean, you just kind of got.
Jay's had a long day on the water today, guys. I might have to nudge him at some point, wake him up.
Just got to kind of expect that when you get out there, and it can change what you're doing a little bit. Obviously we're getting into July, so the water temperature's warming up. Fishing always slows down in our area during the hot summer months, July and August. So you kind of expect that, and so we're going to talk a little bit about some ways that you can still keep the rod bent. Forward.
Kenny? What do you do when you have all this influx of fresh water? What are some ways you'll adjust to that?
I start using a lot more popping corks. Visibility's low. Go to some glow. If you're using artificial, some glow baits, cut bait under popping corks, and push out a little deeper for certain fish, and some may come in a little closer.
Appeal to the other senses besides sight.
Absolutely.
Yeah, scent. I mean, you can switch over using more live cut bait, things like that. Try to get some scent in the water, for sure.
Yeah, I'd just say, move 4 horsemen tackle. Yeah, 4 horsemen corks. Shout out. Move away from the freshwater sources.
Yep.
Get away from the river mouths and just push out a little bit and stay away from the turbid water. You're going to see the water's going to be stained everywhere, but there's a difference between stained and turbid water. We've talked about it a lot over the past episodes of this, but if it's got particulate all floating around in it, it's usually a stay away from that. Stained water's okay, but stay away from that. Also, sorry, we good?
Yeah, we're good. I mean, the water's dark. So as far as the fishing goes, especially for trout, I mean, what are we? I mean, I know bite's been a little bit tough, but how have we, what you guys been doing to be successful in regards to trout here lately?
Yeah, that's like goes back to what I was saying before. Some with the darker water, the fresh water, using the popping cork, some glow, soft plastic, chartreuse is another good one, and cut bait. For me, it's been working better than live.
Yeah. So I think that kind of can segue us in here to our best bets this month, sponsored by the Nowhere Grill. We're up here at the Nowhere Grill right now, and appreciate Mark and Tammy for having us here. And they got it going on up here. We stopped by here in between our fishing trip and scallop trip on Saturday. We took a nice little lunch break, came up here, got some ahi tuna and some blackened Cajun wings, and it was a good deal. So it's a nice little pit stop if you're in the Keaton Beach Perry area.
Yeah, open
sure.
Wednesday through Sunday. So if you're up here any of those days, they usually have something going on every night of the week, just about.
Yeah, they got
music or poker night or.
Yeah, I think it's karaoke Thursday, and then live music Friday, Saturday. So
yeah, live music was great Friday.
Yep.
Okay,
yeah,
so
we're always hanging out up here anyway. So Jay, best bet.
Best bets. There's a couple things that we can do. We talked earlier about how it's getting hot. Fishing can get tough in the summertime, and keep your expectations low. For the most part, you may get out there and you might catch a good mess of fish, but there's also a good chance that you might get out there and struggle a little bit. But there's some things you can do to kind of keep the rod bent. Kind of like we were talking a little bit earlier. Getting some cut bait out there. There's a variety of stuff out there. There's like pretty much every pelagic or migratory fish that is around is here now. That's from jacks to bluefish to cobia. You could run down anything out there. So if you keep a bait in the water, keep some cut bait, a live pin fish or something like that. Just keeping that out there, you're going to keep the rod bent. May not be exactly what you want, but it can turn a slow and boring day into and making it at least interesting. So that would be my best bet for the month, just to try to keep the rod bent, get some, cut bait, cut ladyfish. You can buy L-wise from the Keaton Beach bums there in Perry
oh yeah, frozen.
Yeah, frozen. Yeah, frozen ones. Yeah, the frozen ones. Buy a box of frozen ones. Thaw them out. Yeah, frozen mullet. Get something out. Get the kids out there and catch a variety of stuff. You're going to catch catfish, sharks, and other stuff. But you might be surprised at what you pick up too.
You might catch some redfish and trout as well.
Absolutely.
So, and I think I'd say probably my best bet is going to be just it's been like flat calm a lot here lately. It's not always like that, but in the summertime it does tend to slick off, which can make it really tough. But read the surface of the water, man. No matter whether you're in 3-4 feet of water all the way out to 15 feet of water, or even beyond for the offshore guys. But I'm not going to talk any deeper than 15 feet of water for an inshore show.
Right.
But and you may be fishing for inshore species in 15 feet of water right now. I mean, that's something that can happen. But check out the bait. You never know, especially if it's getting crashed. But even if it's not getting crashed, even if you can just see it disturbing the top of the water. And for those of you who don't know exactly what I'm talking about, it's just if it's calm, or even if it's not calm, just look for a disturbance at the top of the water, because a lot of times that's
or a
some
splash or something. You see some water thrown up in the air. It's going to be a good indicator that
ballyhoo, glass minnows, anything, and even if they're not actively feeding on that bait at the moment, crashing surface, because obviously you want to target it then. But fish in the area, set up a drift. You see some bait pods here. Set up a drift and work through there, because those fishermen may not be actively feeding on them, but they may be hanging around that area where the bait's present at. And if you knock them on the nose with a jig, or a piece of cut bait, they can jump on it. So I would say, just take advantage of whatever the day brings you. Don't be so specific on what you're after. Who knows, man? You might get out there and get into a bunch of. You might go trout fishing, but you might go and find a bunch of bluefish and Spanish mackerel crashing some bait pods, and that can be a real fun day.
It can be a day saver.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That can be a day saver for sure.
Be open-minded, and, yeah.
And my best bets, focus on, for game fish especially, early mornings, late evenings when that is cool.
Absolutely.
Absolutely, for sure. Yeah, and one of the things that I've noticed It's kind of been hit and miss, but with we've had some east wind, we've had all this water. It's kind of flushed some of the grass out, so there's some areas that you can get out and you can throw some top water, which always during the summertime is going to be one of the most productive ways to target game fish that you're looking for, whether that's trout or redfish or other species.
Yeah. And so I think that kind of segues us into the next bit here. We're gonna go into a tackle tip, but first the tackle tip sponsored by Keaton Beach Bums. Keaton Beach Bums, formerly the
corner store.
We call it the corner store, yeah, right there by the boat ramp. But they've got ethanol-free boat gas. Right. They just installed a big cooler with a walk-in cooler with a huge ice room and a walk-in beer cave. So that's a cool thing.
You got live pinfish in there.
They do not have live.
Oh, they don't.
They have live shrimp when the shrimpers are running.
Okay.
They got all kinds of nice frozen baits, chum, all that good stuff. So and some tackle if you get down here and realize.
And they have your offshore baits in there too. So or anything you want to use to cut or chunk bait, you can get those LYs and
right. And they got ribs too, don't they, Kenny?
Delicious ribs.
Yeah.
Delicious.
The food is always surprisingly remarkable in there. It's just, you go in there and it's always good, always. So anyway, that leads us into our tackle tip, which is again brought to you by Keaton Beach Bombs. This month is Evan. We're going to talk. What are you talking about this month, Evan?
I think we're talking about tying knots this month.
Okay.
Just some simple stuff.
All right, here we go.
What's up, guys? Coming to you dockside for this month's tackle tip. One thing I get a lot from clients are asking about the knots I use. And I'm not a knot guy or guru by any means, but these are two knots that are very basic that can help your fishing game. Number one is the double uni knot. And that's going from braided line to your leader material, whether it be fluorocarbon or mono. And it eliminates people who are trying to tie on a swivel or tying braid or the main line straight to their plug. Number two is going to be a loop knot, which is, if you can see that right there, it just allows your plug to move more freely in the knot. So I'm about to show you how to tie both of these. Okay, so this is your double uni knot. I've got 15-pound braid, 20-pound leader. You lay them across one another like this, going opposite ways. You take your leader line, make a loop, just like that. And then you take your tag in and run it through the loop, run it over braid and itself. So you do that 4 or 5 times, and you grab your tag in and pull that tight, and it cinches it down right over the braid and right over the leader. Then you go to your braid tag in, and you do the exact same thing. Make a loop just like that, and go through it 4 or 5 times. This is super simple, easy line to leader knot. And then once you do that, take your tag in, pull it tight, then you grab both of your main lines here and cinch it down just like that. And then you just get your scissors and you just trim her up. I'm having trouble here. And then get that one, and there it is, trimmed up nice, tidy double uni. Okay, all right guys, now we're going to talk about the loop knot. What I have here is 20-pound fluorocarbon leader. First thing you want to do is just take your leader and make an overhand knot. And you want to pull it down tight to about the size of a pencil eraser and just leave enough tag in for you to be able to work with here. Second, take your tag in, go through your eyelet, and you see when I pull this, when I'm holding this straight up and down, you see that loop is kind of slanted at an angle there. So you have a top and bottom. You take that tag in and go through the bottom, pull that semi-tight. You want to leave it looking like that. Then take your bait, twist that 5 or 6 times. Once you do that, you take your tag in and through that slanted loop, you go back through the top of it. And then you pull that down tight. Now when you're pulling it tight, if you pull your main line, your loop will get bigger. If you pull your tag in, your loop will get smaller. Just so you can see it on the video, I'm going to pull the main line and make the loop go a little bigger there. Okay, pull that down tight. Get your scissors, trim her up, and there's your loop knot.
All right, so Very nice. Talk about 2 knots that I pretty much use every day on my boat. Those were 2 of them right there, the double uni and the loop knot.
There may be a few better line to leader material knots, but that's
sure.
just the simplest, just to tie up real quick.
Trying to get a quick
you
knot,
going.
get back in the game for sure.
You guys, go ahead and drop some questions for our question section. We're going to talk a little bit about summertime redfish here, and we're going to talk a little bit about Keaton Beach Trading Post for just a minute, and then we're going to go into the questions.
Yeah, so if you've already asked a question on there, we'll get to that in just a minute. But the main topic that we're going to kind of spend time on now is summertime redfish. You know, redfish is around all year. They can be a lot easier to target during other times of the year, but I think summer is a little bit, it can be a little tricky to get after them and get on good fish. Yeah, so we'll talk about some things that you can do to kind of increase your odds of finding them. One of the things that we get, obviously, which we've had a bunch of, is rain. And that fresh water and it doesn't so much, the redfish don't seem to mind the fresh water so much.
Go ahead.
They, if you get a copious amount or a lot of fresh water really fast, then they don't like that.
It'll shock them and flush them out for a few days, but they'll tend to come back.
But they tend to come back, right? But what the main thing that affects them is what happens to the bait when we get all the fresh water. And so when you're looking for redfish, their primary forage in the summertime is going to be bait fish. And so when the bait fish gets pushed out, whether it's due to water temperature or an influx in fresh water, then those redfish start hanging out in a little bit deeper water, in that 4 to 6. They can even be out there in 8 feet of water.
Be anywhere.
Be anywhere, really. Yeah. So like we talked about earlier, there's some things that you can do, and one of those things is to key in on bait fish. And so we talked about finding bait fish busting. Well, one of the reasons that you're looking for that bait fish or the game fish or whatever it is, the predatory fish busting on the surface, is because there's most likely going to be some redfish in the area. Now, there's going to be some others.
In your shallower zones. Like if you're out there in 12, 15 feet of water, it could be redfish, but more than likely it's not. But if you're in 3 to 6 feet of water and something's getting pounded on the surface, it could be redfish.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and there'll be a variety of fish in there. We threw in a school of redfish the other day and instantly hooked up, and it wound up being like a 15-pound jack. So, there's going to be a bunch of stuff mixed in with it, but there are going to be some redfish around.
The trick there is try to get it down underneath the school of bait fish before the jacks or the bluefish. They're more targeting the top of the school.
Right. Yep.
And this kind of is like we're kind of getting a little redundant here, but when it's calm, especially when it's calm, redfish will float to the surface. Like,
oh yeah.
You can
even in deeper water.
You can sight fish redfish in 4 to 6 feet of water if it's calm, because if you start seeing something, and you think, oh well, it's too deep for a redfish to be tailing or showing. Not really, because they like to float. Whatever reason, you'll see just a fin floating or whatever. They're just sitting, and even if they're not actively feeding on bait, they just sit there and just float up. And sometimes you can spot that if it's relatively calm, and just ease over there and cast into them, and it's usually on.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. There's another thing that you can do, right? When we're trying to hone in on specific areas that these fish might be holding on. You want to talk a little bit about that, Evan?
Yeah, just deeper structure. I feel like rock piles out there, like rock piles out on the flats. There's a lot of rock piles out in the western Apalachee Bay. Out deeper in the flats, the St. Mark's-ish area, also some deeper bars, more in the middle and eastern portions of the bay, more in the middle portion of the bay, I would say.
Yep. Yeah.
And you can go out there and target them in some of these deeper bars that are covered up with water, so they might not be holding in the inner creek mouth bars as much. There may be a few in there now, don't get me wrong, but I think some of these structure in a little bit deeper water that maybe is never really getting exposed except for a big low tide.
Yeah, if it's covered up with 2-3 feet of water on low tide, that's the kind of structure you're looking for, because there could be 3 to 6 feet of water on it, depending on where the tide is. And so whether it's a rock bar or an oyster bar or anything that's just different from the surrounding bottom, any kind of structural change or anything like that is a good area to look at. as far as finding those. And then if it's slicked out, you go check out those areas, and like you were saying, those fish might be floating up top. So always go in there. Don't just come blasting in there.
Right.
Take it easy, go slow, shut down early, and then kind of go in there slow, and you might see those fish floating up high on the surface.
What you think, Meat Man Kenny? You got some stuff to add about this?
Yeah, I mean, y'all are right on it. There's still going to be some holding up in some of the deeper holes in the creeks and stuff. You can target on the bottom. Shrimp was working great until we couldn't get any.
And you still may be able to find some shrimp around, so don't completely discredit that. But
right,
yeah.
but it's getting hard to find them. So I kind of switched gears a little bit.
And you're using the shrimp to specifically target redfish. You're
Just
not going
redfish,
out and
no.
over to grass flats and tossing shrimp on there.
Just targeting redfish.
Yeah, yep. And then top water early in the morning and sometimes late in the evening on those big highs.
Yep.
Up close will be productive as well if you can find some areas without any grass. And those are typically going to be more your slot fish in
Yep.
there. Those outer deeper structures that we were talking about, you might run into some really big redfish.
Well, you got some big
fish out there.
redfish inshore right now, like you're talking about chasing those bait fish that are
Yep.
normally not there, and they go to spawn in like September, October. So a lot of those big bulls, matures would go offshore. You'll still have your slot fish and your just over slot fish hang around the fall, but those really the best time to catch a big bull is now.
Yeah, right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, out in a little bit deeper water. Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
you might run into, an overslot in there close, but we've been running into some 35 to 40 inchers here lately out in that little bit deeper water, so.
Big uns.
Yeah.
And honestly, when you get in those, don't be real picky about what you throw into them.
No.
Just get a bait. If you got a Twix bar, throw a Twix bar in there. With
They'll
it.
eat anything when they're like that, for sure.
And like any other time, your a good bet is to match the hatch. I mean,
Yeah.
I've been seeing some ballyhoos. I've been throwing,
Yeah.
5-inch.
Yeah, I think that's the primary forage what those fish have been feeding on right now. So if
Right.
you can find a lot of ballyhoo around, it's funny. You'll pull up into an area and it'll just be going bonkers one morning. There's stuff blowing up everywhere. Fish busting and there's bait everywhere. And then you'll pull into the same area the next morning. It's kind of just quiet and nothing's going on. So you might have to bounce around and check some different things to find that, because bait's moving, fish are moving.
Oh, yeah.
So.
For sure, and we have been finding a few schools of these big redfish, like you alluded to, and you generally aren't seeing them in the same spot. It might be the same stretch of coastline, but it's not like they're hanging on this rock pile.
Right.
No, they're cruising.
Yeah, they're cruising.
Yeah. They we found the same fish within, half a mile
Yep.
of where I've seen them before. So, it's kind of a big area that you're looking for. That's why it's hard to stay on them. You might, find them, have a really good day one day, and the next day you go in that same place and they're not there.
That's kind of everybody. I have, some of my longtime clients, they always text me, and how's the fish biting right now? And pretty much my answer all the time during the summer is hit and miss, because, it's hard. It's so day to day. You go out there one day and you can absolutely just bust them, and then, the next day might be a bust.
Yeah.
So it's,
Yep.
you never know until you go. You got to get out there. You got to get out there to get it done.
And the other thing too with that busted bait, we were talking about trout earlier. It's typically like there's fish in layers, right? So, if you're finding a bunch of bait, you're going to see a lot of bluefish and jacks kind of near the surface. And then if you can get a bait below that, you're typically going to find redfish and stuff. But if you work the outside edges of that too, those trout will be schooled up on
Right.
that stuff too. So, you can work the bottom, or whether it's with a jig head or a, something that you can kind of move slow on the bottom. You can pick up trout around that.
Yeah, and I think it just in general, not necessarily this time of year, but definitely applies during the summertime, is if you're getting into a bunch of ladyfish, just really talking about what you're saying. I think a good rule of thumb is if you're catching a bunch of ladyfish, really slow your presentation down if you're using some kind of artificial or something, and make sure you're fishing lower in the water column, because a lot of times those ladyfish and
They're
trout are
eating
eating
the
the
same
same thing, but
Yep.
they're in different
Depths. Yep.
depths. So the
One-
trout will sit under the ladyfish.
One thing I've been doing, mentioning throwing in those schools of bait, I've been keeping like a 5-inch jerk bait on rigged with a 1/2-ounce jig head, so I could get it down fast and get it under that school of bait.
Yep. Yeah, and then also too, you like use spoons for redfish, but if you go from like a quarter to a half ounce, that'll get down a little bit quicker, and you can keep it underneath those jacks and ladyfish and pick out those redfish too.
So I think we're going to go ahead and hop into some questions here, but first we just want to talk a little bit more about our title sponsor, and we appreciate having the Keaton Beach Trading Post and Keaton Beach Outfitters sponsor us. They're going to be located right beside the boat ramp. The additional parking across the street from the boat ramp, right there and where it's at, in the middle there used to be another business there, but they are no more, and no more in that location anyway. But they're going to do golf cart rentals, so you don't have to be staying with Keaton Beach Vacation Rentals to rent a golf cart. You can just go up there to the outpost, rent a golf cart. If you're in town and you want a kayak, or you live in the area and just want a kayak for the day and not buy a kayak, go see them. They got bikes. They're going to rent bicycles if you want to get out. And so it's just some activities for the family once you're down there. And also on top of that, they're going to have a little store that they're going to sell some apparel and hats and stuff, like right here behind me. You got the Stephanie's got some cool designs with the Golf to Table design there, and the Scallop Squad, and she's got some more stuff like that on the way. Some hats. Jay's got on one of their hats there, and it'll just be something to do. If you're in the area visiting, you can stop by there and get a nice little memento to remember your stay at Keaton Beach.
And you may have mentioned already, but they're shooting for a grand opening of.
Yeah, we're looking into summer, like Labor Day.
Ish.
Ish. They're working on it hard now. But,
shooting for Labor Day, somewhere around there. I think their goal is to open up by Labor Day. But
yeah, we were gonna like try to do the video from there this month, but we're under construction right now, so maybe in the fall. But yeah, they'll have all kinds of novelty items. It'd be a nice little place to stop in and spend a little time looking around in there, and
sure.
Also you can kill a day while you're here if you're not going to be fishing or something. You want to get on a kayak or whatever.
Yeah. So that's kind of exciting. Something to look forward to for sure. All right, so we're going to kind of roll into some questions now. Obviously, there aren't very many. So if you got one,
I'll
please
get home early then.
Please send them in. Otherwise, we're going to roll through this pretty quick and we'll be done talking. But if you want to keep trying to get some information out of us, the best way to do that is get some questions in. You never know. Kenny might give away all the spots over here. So.
Well, we might get Kenny talking. Kenny ain't done a whole lot of talking. We need to get him going on something, man.
So anyway, all right. So we talked about the water's dark.
Let's do a Four Horsemen tackle plug here, Kenny.
Okay.
What if someone said something about Four Horsemen tackle? What's your advantage of Four Horsemen corks over?
I love them. They're stronger. They don't bend as easy. They're tough. They sounds better.
They got a good weight, casting weight.
Great weight. For sure.
Good. That's my favorite thing about them is the casting weight, and the stem in them is durable and rugged. So if you throw these other brands with a little thin popping cork stems, they twist and bend, and you don't get the good sliding action with the cork. Man, you hardly. I'll use those Four Horsemen corks till all the paint's off of them, and the puffer fish have almost eat them in two before I have to take it off.
Let me ask you this: when you're fishing a live pinfish, does it tangle you up?
No.
They stays clean.
I mean, you will get twist casting.
Mostly casting, not while it's sitting there.
Right. Gotcha.
Because you're tying that braid right there to the top of it.
Because a lot of the issues that you have with a pinfish, especially if he's live, it's that pinfish is under there and he's just swimming in circles.
Yeah, like the old school stem corks and stuff. But if you got that,
even some popping corks, a lot of popping corks, it'll still tangle up on there.
Well, a lot of times you got a good swivel, it'll take a lot.
And they put good swivels on them, and like you said, if they do bend, you can bend them back easy, right back into shape, and go right back to working how they're supposed to.
Yeah. Shout out Four Horsemen corks, cut off Louisiana.
All right. So, have the urchins been thick?
Absolutely.
I feel like we've talked about this a lot, but
start eating them. They're delicious.
Yeah, me and Kenny actually were eating them. I feel like the last episode, someone asked me if I eat them, and I just jokingly said yes. But we actually have ate them since then. We had some nice people from another country come show us how to eat them, and I'll pop them. We'll run a scallop trip or something just to show to people. I'll pop one open and eat some of the uni out of it.
Yeah. My
I bet
clients ate
that's, I
some
bet
this
that's
weekend.
entertaining. I bet that's kind of like, oh,
People seem to enjoy it,
That's
yeah.
fun. That's a nice
Oh,
little,
yeah.
little sideshow there. You can charge for that there.
Yeah, I had some clients eat some this week and liked it.
It's really not bad. It's
No.
it's just not a lot there. There's just not a lot of substance there once you get into it. You're eating the eggs of the urchin is what you're eating.
Yeah.
All right. Pamela Worth asks, where are you out of?
Taylor County.
Yeah, mostly Taylor County, up into Jefferson. I think we kind of cover a pretty broad range. Kenny gets down good ways south sometimes, right? Yeah, fish down around Swanee.
Yeah, he does. What you do, Dixie and Taylor. We do.
Yeah, Dixie, Taylor, and
I
sometimes
used-
a little farther south.
Yeah.
You know.
And
Yeah, I used to do Taylor and Wakulla, but I bought a house in Keaton Beach. I don't make it to Wakulla much anymore, but I do some Taylor and that little piece of Jefferson.
Yeah, I'm mostly Taylor. and
Primarily
Jefferson.
Taylor.
So, all right. Michael Aman says, with a little tip there, he says Glow Plastics caught 90% of our fish that they caught this weekend. So
I've been watching him with my binoculars. Just follow A-Man.
Schools, Michael Aman also says schools of ladyfish is kind of like what we were talking about
Oh yeah,
earlier.
for sure. There's a bunch of those out there.
Oh,
Kids
yeah.
love them though, you know.
Ladyfish and sharks.
Yeah, especially if you're bringing kids. Like people get discouraged and don't come down here during the summer, because it's limited trout in the summer is a really good day,
Yeah.
But
Sometimes a handful's a
sometimes
good day.
a kid doesn't care though. If you're bringing kids, like let them catch the sharks, let them catch the ladyfish, man. Keep them bent. They're gonna remember that as good as they are. Catching 7 or 8.
Oh yeah,
nice
kids
trout
love it.
or something.
Peel and drag, little 4 foot shark, peel and drag.
For sure. Absolutely. Dustin Antroba says Tarbantactus, float a live bait. There you go.
If you see them, float a live bait.
Yeah.
Moving on.
Can one of y'all, Steve Bond says, can one of y'all round up this floating grass? Has it been? I haven't been out of Keaton in like
It's-
forever,
it's-
so I have
I
no
posted
idea.
a picture
It's
today on
everywhere.
Facebook.
Yeah, okay.
It's
Terrible.
Yeah, you're not throwing
Yeah.
any top water around Keaton. Of course, let's go back to the summertime redfish tactics. Get away from the people. It's right
Yeah,
there
that's
where
right.
a lot of the boats are and the scallopers are. There's a lot of grass kicked up. So, you kind of want to get out of the crowds. I mean, I feel like that kind of goes without saying, but, I don't know.
Yeah.
Don't run directly in from scallopers and think you're going to catch redfish. You might, but it'll be a kind of a fluky
Yeah.
type deal.
Or fishing in the middle of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you need to get away from where everybody's scalloping. I mean, like if you want to find some, we talk like you were just saying, you want to get away from.
Yeah, don't go out to the edge of
Try
the.
to get away
Don't
from
go 100 yards outside the edge of the scallop flotilla and expect to do well.
All right, so yeah, the floating grass. It's better the further north you go. I will say that
It is.
It's the farther
It's
north
tidal.
you go, it's more tidal. So there's windows that you can get in and out of around the floating grass and maybe throw some other baits other than just a popping cork. If
Don't
that's
be
not
afraid to
your-
fish them either.
If that's not your shindig.
Well, what do you mean? What do you mean? Don't be afraid to fish the grass. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of times
Oh,
there'll be some fish up under 'em.
Elaborate.
A lot of times there'll be some fish up under them.
I have seen triple tail sitting. under 'em.
Absolutely.
Yep. All right, so do y'all change? Todd Tanner says, do y'all change your leader length under the popping cork to the depth of the water, or just use a standard length?
Yeah. So I talk about this from time to time, but
Yeah.
you guys really aren't trying to hear that. Like I get a lot of pushback on this one, but yeah, I changed the leader depth quite a bit. Michael Amon says he does a 24.5-inch leader, not a 24.25, but 24.5 exactly. And Michael, is that whether you're fishing 12 feet of water or 3 feet of water, or is that
That's
standard?
what he uses all the time.
All the time. Okay.
All the time.
All the time. No, if I'm in 8 feet of water, I'm it's kind of a bit of a hassle, but I'm throwing like a 6-foot leader.
Yep.
It is what it is. I feel like it gets more bites. I feel like if the fish are a little bit lethargic in this hot weather, they're not swimming through 6 feet of water column to go up there and eat something on the surface. I'm not saying that they won't. If they're feeding, of course they will, because they'll go feed on the surface. But
And make sure you have adequate weight to still get the bait down under that.
And you know what? If you get it, Jay, get it. And weight it down. And people don't want to hear it, and yeah, it's a hassle. But if I'm in 10 feet of water, I might throw an 8 or 9 foot leader if it's just me. Now I'm probably not giving clients a 9 foot leader and telling them to rip it, but you can.
Another advantage for 4 horsemen there.
Yeah, and you can also run a drop shot rig as well, as opposed to 1/4 ounce jig heads do well. But if you want to really get the bait down there, you can run a drop shot rig, which is basically a Carolina rig where you're putting about 18 inches a leader.
Maybe that should be your tackle tip for next month.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you real quick, and maybe I can demonstrate
it.
Yeah, we can talk about a drop shot. But yeah, throw like 12, depending on how thick the grass is down there, and if you're fishing in 10 feet of water, you may not know, but maybe safe to just put an 18-inch piece of line there, tie a hook to it, and then a little leader above it, and that way your weight's on the bottom and your hook's up over the grass.
24 and a half.
24 and a half inch. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, and Steve Bond says 24.25, so there you go.
Yeah, so you're going to need an exact tape. And is that including the knot? Is that IGFA?
Is that before you cut it or after you tie the knot?
Does that include the knot? Can a bimini twist be in there?
All right. Steve Bond also says, will they sell street tacos to go, please, at the new store?
You know what? I don't want to give away any plans too much here, but Stephanie has mentioned to me about wanting to have some food trucks there. I don't know if that's something she's putting together, or it might not be till next year. Yeah. But it'd be nice to have some
different choices. I mean, don't get me wrong, Keaton Beach Pups they got great choices in there to eat, but it would be nice to have maybe a little Mexican or something, for sure.
Tarpon tactics, lures, bait, presentation.
You want to talk about that?
I don't know, man. Probably not. I'm sorry, Dust. DM me.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Carl Jackson says the water was clear at St. Mark's this weekend. What areas are you seeing go dark? Basically from the Osceola.
Go to St. Mark's today and tell me what you say.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Basically from Osceola back south and east, it's all dark.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just took a little while for it to flood. It's going to be dark over there. I mean, I haven't been there, but yeah.
It's really dark in that middle western.
It's dark. It should be dark most everywhere. There's some of the clear spots around, okay, I'll go ahead and call out a spot like Grassy Island where everybody's scalloping right now. There's clear-ish there, but it's always clear there.
Yeah,
but
it seems like it's always clear there.
Yeah.
Well, there's not a lot of runoff.
I would say the areas that are always. I will say this: the areas that are usually a little bit more tannic are less likely to be as affected by large influx of fresh water, because there's always water coming out there anyway. So, if you're trying to focus on an area of fish during this time, that might be something you think about.
Yeah, we had to. That was Bryce. That was a 2 birds with 1 stone. There, we got rid of the gator sign, and we showed off some of the trading posts gear you can go pick up. So, yeah, I did cover up the gator sign. That was
that was strategic. That was strategic.
I don't like it.
Chew Strong says, do you think line color matters for spooking fish? As long as you got a leader on there, I don't think it matters.
I don't think it matters. I have a mix right now. I have some high vis yellow because that's all I could get at the time, and I needed line. I've got some camo, I got some blue. Yep. I don't see a difference in any of them.
Yeah, I think as long as you got a clear section of at least 1.5 to 2 feet of leader on there, I don't think it's going to make a difference. Now, I never tie.
Disagree.
Well, this time of the year, let me say that because working things a little quicker.
Finish.
I'm just trying to figure out what part you disagree with, isn't it? Just thinking about it.
I don't like bright line colors.
You don't like them, or they don't work as well.
I don't know that I have got less bite. As long as I've got my section and there's not a bright line color attached to that bait, then I don't feel like I've gotten less bites because.
Well, let me say this: I don't know for a fact that it matters, but if we're trying to catch fish and you're doing all these little things to help catch fish.
You're just trying to take it as much out of the equation as possible.
Yeah, I mean,
right?
why even worry? Why even?
I mean, I don't have bright lines on my reels. I'll just tell you that I run green and gray. So
now the water like it is right now, where was dark out there, no, it doesn't matter. But if you're fishing clear water, it might matter. I mean, run longer leader. I mean, I'm running a big leader off of. I don't have any colored line, but if I were going to run colored line, I'd run a big, longer leader than normal. If you want to, if it's a visibility thing and you're running off a cork, then fine. If you're running a fluorocarbon mono leader down under the cork, but for me, and you got two guides telling you they don't think it matters, but for me, I don't like it. I don't fool with it.
Well, don't get me wrong, I prefer green, but at the time I was needing some line quick, and that's what they had, so that's what I put on, and I'm not seeing a difference. But maybe in the wintertime, when you're finessing, might make a difference.
Yeah, I mean, if you got bright color line, just maybe run your leader a little bit longer.
I just feel like every little thing you do might produce another bite or two during the day, or another 8 or 10 bites, and maybe might produce the big trophy bite that you want, the big fish or something. I don't know, I don't want to. And it may not matter, but if I'm throwing yellow line, it may not matter, but it matters in my head, and I'm not confident with it, so I don't want to throw it.
Well, I mean, that being said, I don't have any bright colored lines on my reels, so I just don't like the way they look, personally.
Sissy lines.
Yeah. All right.
It does help with clients that don't want to keep their slack reeled up.
Yeah, I will agree. I will agree. It is easier to see for us.
All right. Michael Ammon says the puffers are still out there for you to eat, too.
They're delicious.
Hadn't caused me puffers lately.
Caught one this week. That's it.
All right. Last. Okay. Maybe coming in. I had Steve Simpson says, I had good luck with a gulp and a piece of fish bites last Thursday. We were killing some time the other day, and I had somebody on the boat that broke out a gulp and started throwing it just to try to, mess around, and then wound up catching like 6 trout on 6 casts.
They work.
It was
I'm
weird.
not a fan of them, but they work.
I wasn't in really, targeting trout, but we were just messing around and wound up picking up some trout on them. So
they work.
I
hardly ever fish with them. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and tell people that they don't work, because they do.
So Steve, you're combining the gulp scent plus the fish bite scent together to get to have that.
My deal is you're paying what do they cost? I mean, there's like 5 baits in a pack, and they're what, $6, $7. So you're paying
$1
over $1 of plastic,
yeah.
and you catch one fish on them, and they're shredded. I just I ain't with it.
Yeah, there's definitely more durable options.
I catch a lot of trout not with gulp. Not Steve, and that's not anything against you. If you're just you like using gulp, and that's what you want to do. But for me, especially fishing people, I mean, how you'll go through a ton of it in a day. I'll be constantly re-rigging and stuff, and if you're really on the fish, it don't matter, and they're feeding.
Al Murphy says, what about high vis corks as far as affecting the fish?
I don't know. Do they make low vis corks? Is that a thing? I mean, they're all like fluorescent and white or fluorescent colors that I'm aware of. So
doesn't seem to affect.
It doesn't say. I mean, redfish will come up and attack a popping cork. So
Dude, we had. Speaking of, we had one of those. We got into a school of those bull redfish we were talking about, and one of them had the. We were fishing with a cork, and one of them had the bait, obviously, and 2 of them came up and crunched the cork in half. They were just so worked up looking for something to eat. They came up, and they were so big they ate the cork sideways and just split it in 2. There was just 2 pieces of cork, and they were still trying to eat it at the surface. It was
have
that's
cobia hit them all the
twigs
time.
at them. Yeah, cobia hit at them, but yeah, I mean. Top water plugs. I mean, what's one of our favorite top water plugs is orange on the bottom.
Yep.
Chartreuse.
Chartreuse, right, with the way the water is right now.
So no, I don't. I guess contradicting what I was saying about the line, but I don't feel like the cork matters much. But usually you got a little separation off of a cork. But well, hey, if you're fishing clear water and you drag a high vis piece of line over something's head,
No,
it's gonna be
I know. I got you. All right. So I guess that's going to about wrap us up there. We don't have any more questions. Travis Andrew says the guy in the middle must be rich running 9-foot fluorocarbon leaders. He didn't say they were fluorocarbon, Travis. But, I mean.
Well, you shop smart.
Yeah. I mean,
I mean,
you can use fluorocarbon, obviously. mono works just as good.
I use fluorocarbon. But
I mean, you could use the same fluorocarbon leader, even if I did use a non-fluorocarbon leader, which I don't. I was just saying, for example, if you wanted to, you could, and it might be more effective. It's not super practical.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it ain't like you're going through them, and I'm not going through a spool. If you tie a 9-foot leader on, it's going to be there for a while most of the time.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and you can, when you lose a bait or whatever, you don't have to retie a leader all the time. You could keep that one on there for a while.
Yeah.
You know me, I'll run those little. I'm getting down to those little 6-inch leaders. You don't want to retie the leader. You just you lose it.
We all do it.
Lazy ass captain right here. You hear this? You'll never see me with a leader like that.
I mean,
people don't
trip,
come lie on me and say that I fish those.
If I got clients on the boat, if I'm gonna make sure that they're set up to be successful.
If
it's just me, then I'll
high vis yellow with a 6-inch leader on a gold spoon.
Sometimes someone might step on the boat. There might be a little. I'll look at it sideways. I'll be like, I probably better retie that one because I'll be fishing with it myself, scouting or something.
Tie top water plug on it.
Yeah. So anyway, I guess that's gonna about wrap us up, huh? Yeah.
Yeah.
You guys got anything to add about? You excited about your August fishing?
August fishing is the best time of the year.
Depends on the target, but overall, no.
I think we're all ready.
Excited about certain.
Is it?
Yeah, I mean we're only in the beginning of July, and you guys are already ready to be done with summer fishing, huh?
It's not the beginning. It's like, I'm gonna say mid-July.
We're on the first half of it.
I'm gonna stall it for a couple weeks, man.
Yeah.
When are those redfish gonna start moving shallow, Jay?
Look for it at the end of August, usually.
Yeah. Decent numbers starting.
Yep.
Mid-September, you get back in those double-digit days pretty regular.
We can talk about that during the August show.
Yep.
So if you want to talk about,
Thanks,
shallow
guys.
water redfish, we'll talk. We'll come back and see us in August. So anyway, all right. Well, I'm as always, I'm Jay Carson, Evan Snow. I want to thank Kenny Mullins for coming on Real Epic Charters.
Kenny, how can they follow you?
Real Epic Charters on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, pretty much all of them. Website, realepiccharters.com.
You do a lot of TikToking.
Occasionally.
He does have a TikTok. Okay.
I have a TikTok too. I'm
Occasionally.
ashamed of it, but I have a TikTok too. So
Kid, I got kids.
yeah,
They
I mean
talk
you
me
gotta
into
stay.
it,
You gotta stay relevant, Evan.
I don't have kids.
You gotta stay relevant. You gotta keep up with all the trends, man.
He watches too many horror movies.
All right, guys. Well, that wraps us up. We will see y'all next month.